Hello, fellow Araxians. Welcome back. Commander Cyrious here. Over the past year, there have been 3 big promises put on the table by EG7/Toadmen at this point. Sunder update, Assault Mode update, and a meta update to alerts. Let's dive in. I'll see you Planetside. So folks, as I've said in the past, we're getting a lot of communication from the development team right now. My complaint is more communication, less action, but the other option is probably no communication and no action, so we can't really complain. They recently put out a dev letter catching up for May, and one of the big things in it is they were sort of apologizing for Sunderer Crazy Mode weekend, and as a result, they gave out a week of double XP. There's a lot of people that are saying, folks, just make it double XP all the time. Population is kind of hosed. Get that XP flowing and you'll just see more people stick around. There's a lot to be said for that. Normally we see major population fall off during the week, but it's kind of held steady this week. So double XP is doing its thing. So I want to take a minute and talk about all of these things they have promised. Again, the development over the past year has been dismal to non-existent. Really, nothing has happened. But with the Sunderer update accidentally hitting the live servers, and in a very partial form being on test, we're actually getting close to the first update since Rail left. And their updates hit Sunderers, Microflow, and Macroflow. So it's kind of like all on the topics that I'd like to see them work on. The only problem is I have no faith at all that they have any idea on how to approach these issues, but I want to give them points that they're actually focusing on the important issues of the game. We'll just have to wait and see on how these patches actually play out to see if they have any idea where they're going with this. So let's start on the Sunder update. I know I haven't talked about it much, even though it's been around for a while, and it's time I commented on it. Again, it's in a state on the PTS, but I would almost say it's not in a testable state. It's still very incomplete and very bugged out there, so I'm not going to waste my time, but we can very clearly see what they're going for. Here's the too long didn't read. You can't let the buffs to survivability and defense of the Sunderer bleed into the vehicle game. That's it. They won't know how to balance it. It's hard to balance. In fact, Sunderers are already very powerful in the vehicle game. So with most of these buffs that are intended to be defensive, if they bleed over there, they're starting to make the Sunderer overpowered in the vehicle game. Case in point, point defense. Reddit said this, I've said this previously. It's not going to get used for its intention of defending the Sunderer. It's going to get used where you post up just outside a no deploy zone, in between a spawn room and a point, where you can mow down infantry. Or it's going to be this game where you pop out from behind cover, deploy real quick, waste a tank, and then escape. I like the idea of creating more survivability for spawns, but the way you have to go about it is make a deployed Sunderer extremely durable, but probably disable their weapons. Because the moment you make a Sunderer strong enough to be a good spawn point, it is overpowered as an offensive platform. I can't figure out in my mind a good way to balance it. And yes, people have brought this idea up before so that you can quickly mow down the light assaults. But the only way to do it is basically make it impervious to a solo light assault. It shouldn't get offensive capabilities to do that though. The tank next to it, the infantry next to it can kill the stuff. If you're going to make it durable enough so 2 C4 and some rockets can't kill it, don't give it extra offensive capability. So that's one of the new deployment slot options that needs some major work. Vehicle stealth staying the same. It's fine as it is. And then you have deploy dome. This is already in the game, but they're changing it so that it protects infantry as well. It's a noble idea to give people spawning at the Sunder a little bit of a buffer, a little bit of a chance to push away from it. But it's the same problem as the Citadel shield and to some extent the Prowler shield. There's either 2 ways you go with it. It's annoying to create this wall that no one can shoot through. Or if you let the attackers shoot out, it becomes overpowered. there still should be a point where the Sunderer is overrun and it should just die. Given the infantry to defend in the shield will certainly keep them alive and the Sunderer alive longer, but along with it will come people setting up Sunderers in tricky Mimi positions and using them to farm, and I'm going to use the word abuse, even though they're not actually doing anything wrong, sort of abuse the system to their benefit. So the bottom line is, if you're going to offer the Sunderer more durability or more defensive capability, you have to cut down its offensive capabilities while you do it. I don't know if you decrease its reload speed, decrease its fire rate, disable the weapons altogether. There's just no way to balance both at the same time. Okay, so now let's look at the armor slots. So this becomes a big thing. The kind of basic underlying principle of making Sunderers more durable is they're giving them both a deployment, which makes them stronger, right? Whether they have a deploy dome or a point defense, and an armor slot. You can start with enhanced plating. It's sort of a better blockade armor. I don't know, don't hate it, but that combined with point defense is going to be a rough combo right now. You've got the nanite armor, which gives passive constant healing that does not stop. This is a really interesting one to me, and in lieu of mobile repair buses, I feel like this will get a lot of use. Keep the Sundy healed with that and just drop a repair station for the tanks every now and then. Also, it's the only way you can get fire suppression now because it's rolled into that ability. To get that boost in healing, you're starting to be forced to take this one. Or reactive armor. I haven't been able to test it in a good state. When it was on live, it was bugged. It decently increases the Sunderer's effective health. I don't know. All I can think about in all of these is how they're basically buffing Sunderers against vehicles. Yes, it will help their survivability as a spawn point, but mostly they're just going to start encroaching on the vehicle game, getting stronger and stronger. And then finally in this cargo slot, I'm having a lot of difficulty with understanding why you would want to remove the Sunderer's ability from it and put it on the ground. It just forces everyone to be campy. An ammo bus, you want it running around with your convoy. You don't want your convoy to have to hang around an ammo terminal. Repair bus, same story. Radar, same story. Why are we just plinking it down on the ground? And then the shield diffuser allowing entire convoy into the base? Like, what is the logic there? The microflow is already rough. I agree the shields aren't a great way to do it, but it's some sort of perimeter for a base. But now one Sunderer lets everyone in, so it's vehicles all over it. I don't know. I'm not understanding this part at all. I can kind of live with taking away the performance slots. They were sort of moot. Personally, I'm like, give everyone the full effects of Racer, because it's going to feel bad to lose some of that speed, and maybe a portion of the effects of the rival chassis. I worry it'll make this Sunderer too strong, but I want it to be fun and comfortable vehicle to drive. So if you are actually taking the chassis slot away, that's my idea, or leave it there as a fourth. But anyway, disconnecting the cargo from the Sunderer, I don't see the logic in yet. So there's my thoughts on the Sunderer update. The Sunderer is my favorite vehicle, so I'm glad they're working on it. I don't mind the idea of making it a durable spawn as long as it's not good offensively. Again, it irks me that, like, this is a 3-week hotfix thing. This whole, like, it's been 7 months since it was announced, and they're just kind of teasing it out like this is a big deal and this is like big stuff. And it's like, if that's where we're at with Planetside compared to the patches we were getting, this is just utter disaster. So I'll be glad for them to just get past this one, whatever the heck they're going to do. People are very sensitive to their vehicle gameplay, think CAI, so I urge them caution in making Sunderers more powerful in the vehicle game. Okay. Next teaser they have dropped is Assault Mode. And again, all we have of it is a few paragraphs in a dev letter. How real is it when we're 7 months out from the Sunderer update and don't have it? I don't know, but let's talk through it. My first red flag is basically in the first sentence. We are currently working on an assault facility. To me, it sounds like they are trying to build a base from the ground up, a specific facility that has this mode. So that's two problems. It's not as simple as working on microflow through existing bases. It's building a facility to create it, which means it's going to take a lot longer to do, on top of only affecting a small percentage of the map, wherever they decide to replace an existing facility with this new assault facility. This is an entirely new type of facility that is dramatically different from the existing ones, and we want to try some new things to see how they affected the way players select equipment and approach combat. Sounds like AI wrote that, but we'll skip that one. Our goals are to give the facility a much clearer and directed sense of flow. Containment Site 2.0. We also wanted to have more stable and recognizable phases for battles with distinct beginning, middle, and end phases, each of which will require slightly different strategy and tactics. Finally, we want to have a base design that more elegantly integrates vehicles so that they will have a clear, crucial role without being oppressive to infantry. I mean, yeah, I get it. It's something that everyone's been asking for, and everyone asked for it, and that's how we got containment sites, for better or worse. People are always talking about how the problem is the bases, and the bases are bad, so then we have bad fights. So if we do a facility that protects us from vehicles and has more room for infantry to play, but also has a directed flow for infantry, all this stuff. I feel like the containment sites tried to take all that feedback into account, and I still feel like people aren't super stoked about them. So it's this like holy grail thing that no one can quite formulate into an actual functional base. So let's chat about an assault game mode.
Tech plant steel, anyone up for it?
If you really like look up the definition, it's exactly what we have now, where teams fight over a point in a base. So no matter how this goes, they can just kind of dust off their hands and say, yep, well, you've got assault mode now, folks. But didn't we always have that, Toadmen? Nope, you've got it now. You're welcome. You can thank us later. So an assault facility comes under attack when opposing faction captures the first and only unlocked capture point from the current owner, the defender. This does a few things. The ability to capture the remaining points becomes locked to the initial faction. A hard spawn for that faction is unlocked within the hex. The facility's energy pool becomes active. Couple things I really like about this. You have an initial establishment phase, and you get a hard spawn because of it. That to me is a key feature of the microflow in this. All the Planetside vets have been saying, duh, that's what the towers did. It's been well understood for basically the entire lifespan of the game, going on 12 years, that the attackers need to get established in the base for there to be a good fight, not just dependent on delicate spawn beacons, routers, or sunderers. I think my microflow video is going on like 7 years old at this point, and that's just a drop in the cacophony of community content saying, hey, we got to address this. And it still ends up being like, we're going to address this with beacon tweaks and router changes and construction. Like the fact that it still is this kind of like little piecemeal hotfix project is just like mind-boggling. What it is such a crucial underlying part to fights actually like being fun. And the fact that Toadmen is actually going to try to take up the charge of fixing this very important issue, but something that no one's been successful in working on, after it takes him 7 months to get a broken hotfix onto the test server for the Sunderer. I don't know what's going on, guys. This is nuts, but I'll give him points for saying the right things. Now that the facility is active, it consists of a series of capture points that must be captured order. I'm going to leave all the typos in, guys, okay? In order. Unlocking as the attackers progress. Once captured, these points cannot be recaptured by the defenders. The attackers win when the final point is captured. So the idea here is we're going to make a linear fight, sort of like an Overwatch where you can reach certain checkpoints and not get pushed backwards from there. I envisioned a little bit more of an ebb and flow back and forth, but let's hear them out. This facility is successfully defended if the attacker's energy pool reaches 0 before the final point is captured. The energy pool is depleted in 2 ways. Each capture point owned by the defenders depletes the energy pool at a regular interval. Each instance of spawning or deploying within the facility hex consumes energy. This includes respawning at the hard spawn, spawning at the Sunderer, spawning via squad beacon, spawning via steel rain, deploying in any of the above manners. So I guess routers get free reign, or maybe they just got missed. They go on to comment how this makes revive tools and revive grenades very powerful because they don't use energy. So they're going to adjust the grenade. Okay, that makes sense. I get that revive grenades are OP, but it's like, I feel like everyone still just enjoys them, right? You love your medics. It's nice not to have to run back to the fight. I'm a little bit scared of the idea of touching revive grenades. Energy is added to the attacker's energy pool when they capture a point or via secondary objectives if they are included. When the battle ends, either captured or defended, the facility will enter a cooldown period where the first point is locked and a new battle cannot be initiated. This one worries me a little bit. I can understand a small cooldown, like maybe 2 minutes, but if it's like a 10 or 15 minute cooldown where the base is just locked, and I'm worried like if it's all or nothing. If it's a facility that has 5 points and the attackers make it to the last point and they run out of energy when they're 10 seconds away from capturing it, then they lose all of their progress and the defenders win. I get how that creates some intensity, but like each point should be its own intense moment, and I want it to be able to go back and forward in the base. Not all of a sudden, haha, you ran out of energy, game over, start at the beginning again, you can't even reassault the base yet, even though you've got 100 people in here. Initial release. To get the most out of this new facility type, we are creating a single new customized base to host it. This facility will take over a construction outpost in as central but non-critical location as possible. We are using this strategy to mitigate risk and have time to work on the game mode and facility layout before propagating it further. I get the caution, and the community probably appreciates it, but we've bled about 60% of the population over the last year. I mean, there's no time for this. Like, shit needs to happen in the game that's like tumultuous and exciting for people to actually want to come check it out. There's just not enough here to keep going with the status quo. The facility will be implemented as the simplest possible functional version of this type, with only 3 capture points and no secondary objectives. It's important that we extensively iterate on the simple version first, since good design dictates that we make a compelling experience and accomplish all our goals with as few restrictions or complications as possible. Elegance is what we are aiming for. Success or failure of this initial facility will determine where, how large, and how many of these will be created in the future. I get it, guys, but if the new pace is that we get one facility about 18 months after Rel left, like, the Sunderer is such a minor thing. Like, a facility is really the first, like, major patch. It takes 1.5 years, pushing 2 years to hit. Like, guys, GG, it's over. Like, we're in a tailspin. You gotta pull something bigger than that to stop it. Finally, we come to the risks, weaknesses, and potential issues of this new facility type. The first and most obvious weakness is that this game mode does not elegantly handle a 3-faction interaction. It is very much an attacker versus defender scenario, with the third faction being relegated to a tertiary role where they can tip the scales of the battle's outcome but not own the facility directly. However, we feel that with careful placement, this weakness can be minimized while allowing its strengths to shine. I mean, sure, that's easy. Just place it on a lattice where only 2 people can attack it. So yeah, that's an easily solvable problem of this whole thing. The other major concern is that the energy pool will dramatically affect behavior and decision making. This can break into either good or bad direction. It is impossible to fully predict the outcome of such a chaotic circumstances. The likelihood of creating a situation that is very static or has an overly one-sided meta is very high. At the same time, having death be a more meaningful mechanic and not just a loss of time is likely to unlock some new and interesting strategies. It may even actively discourage deliberately overpopping the facility, leading to more even and sustained battles. The energy pool values, the amounts and ways energy is consumed, spawn locations, vehicle pads, and so on will have to be monitored closely and adjusted carefully. In the end, we are confident we can make this new facility something that we all look forward to. We're looking forward to hearing your feedback when these updates come to the test server. Okay, let me hit pause right there. So the one thing they haven't talked about at all is the defenders have no limits. The defenders have no energy pool. They can throw 1 million defenders in this thing and they have no penalty. All it does is limit the attackers. So if the attackers want to try to be strategic, they don't want to put too many people there because it'll burn the energy up too fast. First of all, no, it's not going to stop Zergs. People are going to Zerg it and just lose more. And they'll just go back to a stalemate just outside of the base because you can no longer assault it. So you've achieved nothing there, just making it more frustrating for attackers. And then here's the big problem with all of this. Let's say at 6 p.m. at night on a Friday, it's a 120 versus 120 fight. Did you tune the energy for that size fight? Now, let's bring it to Tuesday at 8 a.m. It's a 6 versus 7 fight. Is your energy pool scaled for the first fight, and now attackers basically have unlimited energy? That's my biggest concern. And obviously they're saying, oh, we're going to watch this. Like, the problem is the fights are so diverse, and every time you attack a base, it could be a 1v1 all the way up to 150 versus 150. And how are the energy pools going to accurately react to the scale of fight in the base? Here's the main problem with the microflow in Planetside. Most fights are, you have, let's say, 24 people staring at a spawn room. They've got the defenders spawn locked. That phase of the fight is not fun. Suddenly, the defenders either instant action in or gal drop in, and they get wrecked by 24 to 48 players suddenly defending it. That part of the fight is not fun. The goal here is to create a steady push, ongoing friction interaction. My idea was the microflow and the macroflow. There are certainly other ways to do it. Vindicor has some good ideas, but this assault facility is sort of trying to address that by creating flow, but with some extra convolutions that just won't work in Planetside. So anyways, I'm not holding my breath for this thing. They're thinking about the right things. I am glad to hear that. Microflow is a problem. Getting one base swapped out for a construction base 18 to 24 months after Rel left as the first main patch is not sustainable for Planetside. It's just not. Tailspin will continue, and it's not going to arrest it enough. Okay, folks, now we are up to the third promise. That is the alerts and Warzone capture system. One of the ways we feel the game has room to grow is with the alert and Warzone capture system. Ideally, this system is there to represent a snapshot of the campaign where players must cooperate and anticipate their opponent's actions, making decisions about what objectives to prioritize and how much to commit to them. The alert system and the way war zones are captured have several key issues. The system is rigid, with only a single alert able to be active at once. Only a single alert outcome can lead to the capture of a war zone. Much of the diversity of the system has been removed with, other than some special events, only meltdown alerts remain. There is a lack of interesting decision making on a map-wide scale. Currently, which base to attack or defend is the only decision of consequence. I will definitely agree that all of the kind of interesting side objectives has been removed. Like aerial anomalies. I get that people got bored of them and there was not a lot of attendance in them. Yet, every now and then at prime time, people would have a bastion out and you would have these amazing fights. So, I don't know how to approach that. They kind of stripped away everything extra just down to meltdown alerts because a lot of the other ones weren't that popular. I feel like the variety was worth having even though it wasn't super participated in. And shoot, the alert to just kill maxes, great. No one had to change what they were doing. It was just kind of like, hey, there's something going on. You can see the numbers tick up. You play a little differently. You either, you kind of pull out your max killing outfit. I don't know why it went away. Well, I do know why. People didn't like all the maxes getting pulled. But still, I liked having some variety and I missed that. Anyways, what would a rework achieve? Ultimately, the alert system should give purpose to the smaller tactical actions players take, such as capturing a base. Having a more diverse set of goals, something other than paint the map, has several benefits. It creates dilemmas that present interesting choices to players on a group and individual level. It encourages coordination between faction members. It gives players more immediate purpose and direction. Prevents losing factions from despairing by opening up avenues for catch-up mechanics. How will the new system work? Currently, a war zone is captured directly through the alert system. There's a single alert, and the winning faction captures the war zone. Only this alert has any meaning when it comes to determine who owns the currently open continent. The experience has been further degraded by the removal of nearly all alerts other than a meltdown due to the way they interrupted the basic flow of the game. With the new system, capturing a war zone will no longer be totally contingent on the winner of a single alert, but instead the winner will conquer it via a more flexible system that can account for combinations of objectives. VP system. Alerts will be divided into two categories, strategic and tactical. Strategic alerts are longer running and relevant throughout the entire war zone. They give players their primary purpose and an overarching objective. Only one strategic alert can be active at a time, and provides the primary amount of capture weight towards winning a war zone. Meltdown would be an example of a strategic alert and will likely be the first one the rework has to maintain familiarity and continuity. Man, I feel like we've been through a lot of this post, and it's basically just saying what we've got is staying. Okay, here we go. The real change comes with the introduction of tactical alerts. These are less restrictive and more flexible. They can be longer or shorter, or even one-shot objectives up for grabs to whichever faction completes them first. Importantly, they also contribute towards conquering the warzone, and thus are meaningfully worth considering a pending time and effort on. One example of a tactical alert could be the appearance of the Ghost Bastion, which in addition to its ownership erasing properties could also grant a large lump sum of capture weight to the faction that manages to destroy it. Sure, great, I'm down. It doesn't sound significantly better than an aerial anomaly. But yeah, why reserve it for just one Halloween holiday? Throw it out there. How does it work? Is it whoever gets last shot? Is whoever does the most damage? Like, I don't understand how they're going to determine who actually destroyed it when 3 factions are attacking it. And if it spawns in the corner of the map that NC and TR are next to, and VS is all the way on the other side, they're kind of screwed. But whatever. Technicalities. Balance is not a thing we have to worry about. We think this combination of multiple potential objectives, some of great potential value, will create faction-wide dilemmas on which objectives are deemed the most important and how much to commit, if anything, to them. Hopefully this will encourage communication and outfit scale interactive decision-making. We do not have a specific date yet, but the general system design phase is complete and the rework is in active development. Initial implementation of the rework will only have a reworked Meltdown as the strategic objective, as well as some tactical alerts that may or may not appear during any given campaign. Concentrating on a few things early will help us get the rework out more quickly and provide valuable feedback for future editions. Over time, we plan... I'm sorry, it's like they're just... All they're going to do is throw back the mini alerts and rename the VP system. Sorry, I couldn't finish. Concentrating on a few things early will help us get the rework out more quickly and provide valuable feedback for future editions. Over time, we plan to add more strategic and tactical alerts to create a much more dynamic and interesting experience to the Planetside 2 strategic layer. The system is open-ended enough to consider many suggestions, and our team is continuously trying new things. Okay, this is the wordiest letter with, not saying anything that they've released. They've just redescribed what the VP system was. They've renamed what the mini alerts were to tactical alerts. And the only one they brought up so far was a complete meme that I think Rel threw together in a weekend to try to make something happen for a Halloween event. Look, guys, the meta needs addressed. The meta has severely fallen apart. 90% of my playtime is stuck farming at the middle base. And while, Nason's is a great base, I am bored to tears of it. Something needs to happen to make population move around the map. Server merges would go a long way to that, just densifying the remaining population. But beyond that, to make it happen, you need an adjustment to the meta, to the macro flow, and no one's got the resources to do that. It's just not happening. So, guys, these 3 letters talk a really, really big game, in the sense of lofty goals of rolling this assault facility out all over and really fixing the overall meta and all that stuff. And it's just so much talk with so little action that I am despondent so far. So glad to hear them dreaming about it like we are, but I'm just not holding my breath. I just don't want to think about these other things until the Sunder update is done. Toadmen Studios is releasing their game Evil v Evil in July. And obviously there's going to be a lot of teams that are done with their end of it. So those teams should be fully working on Planetside. They are actively going through layoffs, so we'll see what is left behind. And it looks like EG7 really has to make a decision in this if they're just full on winding down the studio, which also means winding down Planetside 2. Or if they're really going to make a play on Planetside 2, and then they shouldn't be doing layoffs, because they need to create a boost. They need to create a bump. The last year has been extremely slow, extremely lethargic, and they need a big development team to shock the development of Planetside 2 into something happening. Otherwise, this accelerated population fall off that we've seen since Rel left is just going to continue, and it's just not a sustainable pace. You're not going to be able to halt that fall off while you're going through layoffs. Okay, fellow Araxians, that is where we are. You are caught up on what EG7/Toadmen is doing with the game. And I'm just like, I am here waiting. When something really happens, you will be the first to know. When the Sunderer patch is a real thing and it's in-game, I will talk much more about it and I will give you the details on it so you can decide if it's worth checking out. As always, you all are amazing. I appreciate all of your support. I am Commander Cyrious, and until next time, I will see you Planetside.